So in this video, what I want to do is kind of do a recap or touch on some of the latest Fallout 76 news and happenings, some stuff that just happened, and some other stuff that is relevant again that I think is worth discussing. We're in an interesting state right now where we're kind of in that modern media trend where the Fallout First thing was the huge news of last week. Everyone was freaking out about it and it was a hot topic for discussion, but now 1 week later you see much of the conversation moving on to other things, but there is still the remnants of what's going on with Fallout First, what's going on with Fallout 76 and its players, and actually some very interesting things are happening in that regard. Even further, there actually is a new update going live tomorrow, or a new event that will be presented, so I do want to touch on that, and just some other miscellaneous things that I think are worth bringing up. If you guys enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe. Otherwise, as I'm sure almost all of you do know, Fallout First, the subscription service for Fallout 76, launched this past Wednesday, and although immediately following that, a lot of people moved away from the game. They stopped playing it, the Outer Worlds came out, which provide as kind of great counter-programming to Fallout 76 in a way. A lot of people, myself included, have been playing that game, but there actually is still that holdout of people who are still playing Fallout 76 despite all of this going on. And among them, something very interesting is happening, as pretty quickly we start to see posts of apparently in Fallout 76 right now, there is a class war of sorts that is beginning. If you own Fallout First, you actually get a couple of things that make it known that you do own it. These are all optional, you don't have to equip them, but you'll actually get a couple of unique emotes that nobody else will have access to, a unique armor type in the iconic Veteran Ranger armor from New Vegas, and what is definitely the most prolific, actually some unique player icons that make it pretty obvious that you are a supporter or do actually subscribe to this program. And in the days following this going live, there actually have been reports that people who are found in-game actually wearing this, whether it be the armor, using the emote, or of course the icon, are actually basically getting griefed by other players. So most of this is coming just from online posts and forums. There's not a ton of concrete evidence as far as photos or videos, so with that in mind, you definitely want to take it at least somewhat with a grain of salt, but it seems like it actually to some degree is a legit thing. I have heard about it happening firsthand from some people that I kind of believe are telling the truth. So on one hand, obviously griefing in games, not super ideal, not a particularly cool thing to do. On the other hand, that is kind of hilarious that is happening. Obviously, this is kind of optional in a sense. One, you just bought your own private server, so you can sit on that alone, but even further outside of that, of course, you don't have to use the icon, you don't have to use the armor, you can control when you use the emote. It also is important to note, you can't really do much as far as griefing in this game goes. You can't engage in PvP if the other player doesn't want to, you can't destroy their camps, you can be toxic over the mic, but that's just a staple of online gaming at this point. I actually went in game to see if this happened, and I found quite the opposite, just a bunch of people dancing. So it seems like it's only occurring in limited cases, probably just when toxic players are present, then you have like the mob mentality kick in. But there have been other posts criticizing people who think they have a sense of superiority as a result of purchasing this, so it seems like there is a genuine classism that's occurring in Fallout 76 right now when it's fairly interesting to witness. Although one of the other pretty interesting things of note is it actually seems like the vast majority of people, even those who supported this game, are very against Fallout First. Like there are instances where you just see a vocal minority, then when the crowd leaves, things kind of go back to normal, but in this case it seems like most people are still on the train. They still really dislike this. Some people don't, there are without a doubt holdouts, but as now a few days have passed, it still is a major topic of discussion with many people actually really disagreeing with it. And I would say if you want to get this removed, that is definitely good. That is the step in the right direction, or the kind of attitude you want to see towards these things. Based on my own personal experience, it doesn't seem like this is widely adopted. There's a lot of people that will drop probably $10, $20 a month on some of the new Atomic Shop releases. And even though in that regard, Fallout First would be a better deal, you're getting more for the same amount of money compared to just buying Atoms outright, a lot of people are not supporting it. A lot of people don't like this decision. They don't like this move for Fallout 76, and I personally agree with them. Now, of course, it hasn't even been a week yet, so we'll see what happens over the coming months. If people are like, well, maybe I do actually want to go that route, or maybe maybe I really want that scrap box or private server, but at least in this short term, it does look like a lot of people are still very against this, even among some of those very hardcore Fallout 76 fans. Although that actually doesn't speak for everyone. There are some people that do support this, or that don't view it nearly as bad as it's being portrayed, like it's kind of an overreaction around this, and I feel like there are arguments to be made there. I personally view it as pretty bad. It's definitely not a direction you want to take the game, and I feel like one of the worst parts is the implications that this will be a mainstay, that certain content will continuously be locked behind this in the future. At least that's where I see it going, and I think that's really bad and not ideal. But some of the major arguments as to why this is okay is that, one, development costs. In order to produce this content, have free DLC, you do have to make up your revenue somewhere, and this is one of those avenues. And honestly, that's one of those things that, although yes, okay, I understand that, I can't even really be in favor of that argument or play devil's advocate, because I just don't think that makes a ton of sense. There's a lot of ways you can make revenue from a game, such as cosmetic microtransactions, exclusively cosmetic microtransactions. And although it is potential that the cosmetic microtransactions weren't enough to fund development, there's literally nothing to indicate that. If you go in game in Fallout 76, you could find a lot of people that spent $10, $20 on a skin for their armor or some kind of outfit for their character. It's not like nobody was buying from the Atomic Shop or it was this very rare thing. It was pretty common. A lot of people had made purchases on there. We don't have concrete numbers one way or the other, so I feel like claiming that they need to add a subscription to fund future development isn't a good argument, because there's no real evidence one way or the other. On the other side of things, you oftentimes hear that Bethesda never actually made a promise that cosmetic microtransactions would be exclusive in this game. That some of the times when that was said, it was just an off-the-cuff comment and it was never an official statement by the company. And frankly, that's another one that I just don't really get. Like, okay, sure, but if everyone buys your game, or the vast majority of people buy your game thinking that it's only going to be cosmetic microtransactions, and the company never takes the time to actually correct them, does it really matter? You sold the game with a lot of people having this perception, and if later on you change that, you go against that perception, whether or not you're technically right or wrong, I don't think actually carries all that much weight. But even still, comments were made. A lot of people do latch on to that, and I think for a lot of people, that's why they chose to support the Atomic Shop, at least initially. That was a lot of the arguments you saw before we saw this transition to utility items and pay to win or pay to advantage items getting added. So naturally, there's always going to be this back and forth. At least as of right now, it seems like the vast majority of people are definitely against Fallout First, me being one of them, so take that bias into account. But at the same time, harassing people who have this probably not the best approach. I know a lot of people, myself included, bought this just to test it, to see how it would actually function in game, because I was making a fully fledged video on it. Although, as far as the future of this game does go, one of the other things we actually do see is that tomorrow the Halloween event does begin. Quite a bit has been data mined around this. If you don't want any spoilers for this event, skip to the timestamp on screen right now, but otherwise it's probably going to work pretty similar to a lot of the other events where you as a community have to do a bunch of tasks. If you complete them up to a certain standard or within a certain amount of time, then you'll get better and better rewards. Pretty similar to how Meat Week worked, and even to some degree Fosnot. Although the rewards for this one too seem somewhat disappointing. There's a bunch of stuff as far as jack-o'-lanterns go in game, which are cool. That's definitely a nice addition. Some of them do have some Fallout inspired designs, and there's actually quite a few new items that look like they'll be placeable in your camp. There's also a couple of outfits that are coming with this. The White Springs Caddy outfit, as this actually is taking place at the White Springs Hotel, but also a fireman uniform that looks pretty cool. It seems like that may be one of the rewards for completing this quest, along with other things like a jack-o'-lantern suit and a pirate costume. And actually, that's it, which to me is kind of disappointing. I feel like with the Halloween event, you have a ton of potential for limited time awards, whether it be masks, additional costumes, the spooky and scary in game, and yet it feels like they didn't really take advantage of that. The only real themed costume we got is the pirate suit. I mean, a firefighter, I guess, technically, but there's also just the firefighter outfits of Fallout 76 already. Although, even outside of that, there's been a ton of other stuff data mined looking ahead at Fallout 76's Atomic Shop. These aren't really spoilers per se. It looks like these will be additional cosmetic microtransactions coming to this game. Some of this actually looks cool. As always, a lot of the stuff that looks really cool is pretty expensive, like a little bit out of my price range. But hey, if you were curious about some of the future stuff on the way, that is a look at some of it, although something that is a little bit suspicious, or it's not clear how it'll be implemented, are actually additional Ranger armor skins. So the Ranger armor, as I described earlier in this video, is right now exclusive with Fallout First, and it doesn't seem like it's a timed exclusive, but rather a permanent one. The only way you could get that outfit is if you buy Fallout First, but in the files of Fallout 76, you can find these additional skins. They actually look pretty cool, just speaking on their own right, but it is pretty curious or interesting to see how these get implemented. Will this be an exclusive microtransaction? Like if you have Fallout First, you have the opportunity to buy this, but if you don't, then you actually can't gain access to it, which would be crazy. Alternatively, it could always just be a regular microtransaction available to everyone, but then it would be pretty disingenuous to get people to subscribe to Fallout First to get this armor, but then a few weeks later actually release it for everyone. So I don't actually think it's that. Or what to me is the most likely is these will probably be additional rewards if you stay subscribed to Fallout First. I wouldn't be surprised if each month they release some new kind of incentive pack for those of you who subscribe that month, resubscribe, or just continue your subscription. The first month you get this cool armor, and maybe some of the subsequent ones you could get a cool skin for that armor, giving you more of a reason to not cancel. As of right now, we have no idea as to what it will be. Maybe these are just old concepts for the armor and won't be used. I doubt that, but hey, maybe. A lot of stuff in the Atomic Shop files will lay dormant for a very long time. Like there's stuff that was there for 6 months before it actually got implemented, so we'll have to see as the months go on. Although one final thing to note, and I wanted to add this at the end of the video because it's pure speculation on my part. We have no concrete evidence or details around this. It's just me having an intuition or a hunch. Almost a year ago now, I actually talked about loot boxes or lunchboxes that were found in the Fallout 76 files and actually in some of the dev rooms in game. In effect, what these would do was you could actually get this little lunchbox, and when you would open it, it would give you a random bonus effect to you and those people around you. Sometimes this would be something like a unique perk card or a bonus to actually deal additional damage to animals, to reduce your thirst or hunger. Some of the in-game mutations were included with these, and it was kind of described as a party favor. This wasn't legacy content. It had some unique animations to go along with it, and in fact, one of the most concerning parts to me at the time, and again, this is late 2018, early 2019, these were found in the files and then later updated. So it seemed like to at least some degree it was being worked on. And with all of this, it actually had the Atomic Shop header, seeming to indicate that it would later be included with the Atomic Shop. So naturally, they never came. They never were released. We never actually got any official statement on them. Technically, everything was data mined, so it's not like they would typically comment on that officially. Although I made a video on it, a ton of other news outlets covered it. Fallout 76 had a lot of backlash at the time, so I wouldn't be shocked if they just decided, hey, let's not do this because that would be a massive outrage, kind of like Fallout First, but this one being 8 months earlier. And to be totally clear, nothing has changed. These are still technically in the files. No updates or edits have been made around them. There's nothing to indicate they're making a comeback. In fact, they've actually been broken with subsequent updates, so some of the effects no longer work. But me just thinking, hey, Bethesda just announced they want to do more utility items. They obviously had plans to do something like this party favor in the past. I could see these making a return, and it's just something to keep in the back of your head. Like maybe an extra benefit as a member of Fallout First, you get these unique items you could use with your friends on a private server. Again, that's pure speculation by me. Don't take this as they're coming, they're confirmed. There's nothing to indicate that, but I just think when you connect some of those dots, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about lunchboxes over the next couple of months. Assuming, again, Bethesda does continue down this route, which I personally do think they will. Otherwise, yeah, that is a recap of all of the latest information around Fallout 76. I'll probably make a video looking at this Halloween event tomorrow. I think it will be interesting to see what happens with it. It is the first major DLC update after Fallout First. But with all that being said, hopefully you found this video informative. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.